All right, welcome to this presentation about our board certification with ACCC. We're going to talk about a few of our different certification options that are available for you. Some of these have changed a little bit here in 2025 since we've had some changes with our VA recognition. So I wanted to re-record this. This is a video that initially was on our website from about 2018. So things have actually 2021. So things have changed a little bit since then. So we wanted to provide you with an update. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to kind of walk through this. First off, my name is Richard Ford. I am the executive director of ACCC. I've been doing this since 2018, and it's something that I absolutely love. I love connecting and interacting with all of our chaplains across all of the different areas where chaplains serve. It's really been quite a blessing. So that's a little bit about me. I am a hospital chaplain. In addition to my work with ACCC, my primary role is as the manager of spiritual care at Fitzgibbon Hospital in Marshall, Missouri. And we're a small rural hospital. And so I cover a lot of different areas in our hospital, not only from an ED as the only hospital in a second largest farm economy in the state of Missouri, but where we see a lot of trauma, but I also cover behavioral health. We also have a 99-bed long-term care facility, and we also have hospice. And so I'm the only chaplain providing care in all of those settings. So if you call me, you're likely not to get a hold of me. It's best always to email me or to use the contact link on our website. And that way, I also have a record of your contact and can get back with you. So I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. First off, we are unapologetically Christian. We don't make any apologies for that at all. That's who we are. And we, however, provide care to all faiths. And this is one of those non-negotiables. We provide care to anybody and everybody. And we provide patient-centered care, meaning we do not ask them to come to our faith. We go to them. But the difference is, we're honest with them about who we are. So, for example, if I have a patient of a particular faith that is not Christian, I will just let them know that I am a Christian chaplain, and I'm certainly willing to work with your clergy member from whatever denomination or whatever religion you are part of. Or I can also do the visit. And by and large, when I'm honest with them about my background, they always say that I will do just fine. And so, at any rate, we do not require anybody to become the person's clergy member while they're there. We are honest about who we are. And I think that's a distinction with us. So, but we also do have a proselytizing policy as part of our code of conduct. And we need to be very careful that we are not proselytizing. When you are entering into a person's world, especially in a healthcare setting, unless they ask you, you are to be silent about your faith. Your goal is to come alongside them in their faith. And so that's really important because we don't want to force our faith on somebody else in their darkest time. Where they may be grasping at anything they can find. We want them to come naturally to the Christ we represent, not forced. And as you know, based on what the Scripture says, we can't do the work anyway. It's the work of the Holy Spirit, correct? So, at any rate, moving right along here, we have 4 different certifications that we offer. The first one is board certified chaplain, and this is what is accepted by the VA. And it is accepted. There was a blip there for about 2 months where we were not accepted, and that has been resolved. And we're going to talk about some of the changes that occurred along with that. And then board endorsed clinical chaplain, that's unchanged since 2021. It's when we were first recognized by the VA, they had some requirements for us that we had some folks that would not meet that apply. And so as a suitable alternative for them, we opened up this new board endorsed clinical chaplain back in 2021. And basically it's what our board certification always used to be. before the VA's recognition. And so we'll talk about that and what the differences are between the two. And then board certified pastoral counselor and board certified associate chaplain. There is another assistant chaplain type position or certification that we have. But honestly, I don't have anybody that has ever applied for that. I've had some inquiries, but nobody has ever applied for that. So we'll not talk about that one today. So here's the qualifications for board certified chaplain as accepted by the VA. 4 units of CPE. This is a non-negotiable. Just right out of the box. If you tell me that you have 3 units, but I've been in ministry for 40 years. Nope. The requirement is 4 units. We do not grant equivalency for CPE. 4 units of CPE. You may have a medical doctor that says, or somebody who wants to be a medical doctor that says, well, I've been to med school for 75% of the time, but I've been kind of a resource for my family for medical things for the last 20 years. That doesn't count. You have to go through the full training in order to be a medical doctor. And it's the same way with chaplaincy. You've got to go through at least 4 units of CPE, but it can't be any CPE. There are lots of entities out there representing themselves as CPE providers, but they're ICPT, the Institute for Clinical Pastoral Training. They are accredited by the U.S. Department of Education, and CPEI, they are accredited as well. ACPE was accredited until October 2024, and then they rescinded their accreditation. And so for now, at least that's our policy, that we will accept units of ACPE prior to October of 2024, but not after. Will that change? Maybe. We'll see. But for now, that is our policy. Documentation is required, including certificates for each unit. And there are no other CPE programs accepted for this currently. That could change because there are a couple entities that we're aware of out there that do provide good CPE, but they have not been accredited by the U.S. Department of Education yet. I've heard that they are in process, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, as of September 15th, 2025, these are the only entities that we accept for board certified chaplain. Now, the other board endorsed clinical chaplain is a little different. MDiv degree from an accredited institution, and your transcripts are required. The most frequent question I get is, can I be granted equivalency? I have a doctorate in counseling. Send me your transcripts. We'll take a look at it. Can't promise that we'll accept it, but I'll tell you, there was an individual a couple years ago that wanted the equivalency of an MDiv degree, but their doctorate degree and all requisite degrees that they had only totaled about 32 hours. And so I don't know how, and of course the degree institution was not accredited either, but the reality is an MDiv degree is a 72-hour degree. And so we're looking for courses and hour requirement that is similar to that. If all of an individual's study is Bible or languages, that really it's not in the same realm as that MDiv. So we have to look really hard at that. We're looking for things like counseling basis, pastoral care, those types of care courses. Then new for 2025, we've had the test. The test has not changed. It's a 25-question test pooled from 50 questions. What has changed is that if you do not pass the test within 3 tries, you have to wait 30 days before you can take it a 4th try. So that's new, but the test itself has not changed. It's 50 questions, a pool of 50 questions. You have to take 25 on the test, and each time you take the test, the questions change. So that's important. The order of the multiple guess changes as well. So at any rate, and this test is the same across all of our certifications. So what does the test look like? Here's a sample question. This is right off the test. So if you remember this, then you'll have at least one of the questions known if it comes up out of the 50 question pool. So which of the following best expresses the CPE process? A, B, C, or D there. And in this particular one is A is the best answer: experience, reflection, insight, personal interaction. So each time you answer the question, if it's correct, it will tell you just like this, correctly answered feedback, and it gives you the rationale for the correct answer. If it's wrong, it'll tell you it's wrong. And you won't get this rationale until you actually get the question right. So moving along, we require 2 verbatim case studies. Don't make this more difficult than it is. If you've done CPE, you've done verbatim case studies, you've done parenthetical statements of what's happening within you when you are interacting with the patient. That's what we want to see. There's nothing special about these. These are standard CPE verbatim case studies. And we're looking for 4 things. First, we're looking at the dialogue itself. Are you staying with the patient and not adding new information? Are you probing their emotions, relationships, and experiences? Are you leaving your agenda at the door? And if you're not doing those things, that's okay. You may get asked about them, but what is really important is that you're able to drill down after the fact in the summaries of the visit and identify the areas where you didn't and why you didn't. We want to see that you're able to provide that kind of feedback to yourself in your verbatim case study. Somebody that says, I didn't have any transference or countertransference in this visit, and we see it all over it in the dialogue. And then we're probably going to ask you, back in your verbatim case study, you said in this particular one that you didn't have any countertransference or transference. Can you look with me at C4 when you said this? Is that not a countertransference statement? We may pull some of those out for you. So just make sure you do a standard verbatim CPE case study and that you're able to, it doesn't have to be perfect, but what you need to do is break it down after the fact and analyze it, because that's a tool that you need to do for yourself long after you're board certified. You need to be able to sit down and do a verbatim on a difficult visit that you had and try to figure out what happened. This is not just something you do during CPE. It's something that's ongoing in the life of a chaplain. I've probably, since I was board certified in 2017, I think I've probably written 40 or 50 verbatim case studies since then. And sometimes I share the verbatim case study with another chaplain and ask them to take a look at it. So, other submissions required, substantial essay requirement. The board certified chaplain does have a lot of writing. And so there is a URL here. When you submit your application online and pay your fee, you're going to be taken to a thank you page that's going to have the link to your test and the password. And it's going to have this link of where you submit your documentation at. And when you go to this link, it'll outline all the documentation that you need. It's in one page. It tells you exactly what core competencies are going to be addressed in each of the items you're writing about. And it spells it all out for you. And then it has the actual links where you submit the documents down at the bottom. So that the one thing I'll tell you is on the test, if you don't keep this thank you page, if you don't print it out or copy and paste it into a place where that you save it, the test link is generated based on your application. And so if you email me 2 months later and say, hey, I can't find my test link, I've got to go in and regenerate that test link so that it's matched to you. And what that means is, well, it's quite a bit of work to add that. So please, once you submit your application and it takes you to that thank you page, save that page. It's important. And then lastly, new for 2025 is that you have to submit proof of 2080 hours worked as a chaplain. This must be in a paid capacity. Volunteer chaplains don't work. At least not the documentation doesn't work for your board certification. You have to have 2080 hours worked as a chaplain. And so it cannot be in a parochial setting. So in other words, if the only place you do visits is as a an outreach of your church, that does not count towards this. It must be as a chaplain working. And so that's important. And for those unable to provide proof, because maybe you just got done with CPE, you just got your degree, you're anxious and raring to go, but you don't have 2,000 hours worked yet. You're trying to get a job and maybe you even get one, but you haven't worked 2,000 hours yet, 2080 hours. Well, we can grant you provisional chaplain status that remains in provisional chaplain status until you get your 2080 hours worked. Now, the caveat to that is you have to have done that within 2 years. So if you get your provisional chaplain today, you have 2 years to have amassed 2080 hours worked and submit that to us. And once you submit it to us, the upgrade is instant. You don't have to pay anything additional. You just send that to me and I verify that it is correct, and then we upgrade you. But you have to have worked as a chaplain for 2080 hours. That's new this year. And so that evidence can be provided in the form of a letter or letters from your supervisor or supervisors stating that you have been employed as a chaplain and you have worked 2,080 hours in that role. So most of the folks who come to us don't come to us right out of school. They've been a chaplain for 2, 3, 4 years. And so this is just merely one of those things they have to do to check a box for the certification. But occasionally we get somebody right out of school and they haven't had an opportunity to amass the hours yet. So moving on along, you also must be ordained and endorsed. Now, there are some chaplain certifiers out there that do not require ordination. We believe that chaplains are clergy. And so, therefore, you must be ordained as clergy in order to be a chaplain by our certification requirements and endorsed. A lot of folks out there now aren't requiring endorsement, but we believe endorsement is important. There aren't any lone wolves in ministry. If there are, that's where there's potential for a trip up. And so we require chaplains and clergy, and they must be endorsed. And certain denominations, we understand, make it very difficult to be ordained. Maybe you're in one particular denomination that does not recognize divorced individuals as clergy. I understand that. So in those instances, we can refer you to some professional ministerial organizations that are legitimate that can work you through an ordination process and meet the requirement. And then there are also some lay minister programs, some Stevens ministers, things like that. We do accept those as well. Because some of the denominations you've got to, they have requirements that just make it, well, for example, if you're a lady, some denominations do not allow women to be ordained. And so we understand that. We try to work with you as much as possible. The endorsement piece is important because you must be endorsed by a Department of Veterans Affairs approved endorsing body. And that spreadsheet is kept updated on the Veterans Affairs Chaplain Services page. It is updated pretty regularly. I don't know exactly off the top of my head how many endorsing organizations there are on there right now. I believe there's about 300. It's not that difficult to be listed on that page as an endorser, but there is a process. And so, as I recall, unless the process has changed, the main requirement to be an endorsing body in that document is that they must have a candidate that they are recommending for endorsement. So, for example, say you belong to XYZ of the Vine Church, whatever you fill in the blank, the name, and they're an independent church with no denomination attached to them. They would apply to be a endorser with the VA. And the requirement is that they have a candidate. Well, you would be the candidate. So they would say, if we can become an endorser, then we can endorse this candidate. And then they will push through the application. The application is really simple. If I remember right, it's basically how long have you been around? What's your address? Really basic questions. But the hardest part of it is you can't just call the VA and say, hey, I'd like to be an endorsing body, and you don't have anybody and may never, ever have anybody to be listed as that. So endorsement, however, is important. We don't have lone wolves in ministry. As I said, that's how you end up having somebody that falls, and we don't want that. So that endorsement is required. Now, I'll tell you, there are some bodies that don't require endorsement. We do. Qualification. Now we're going to move from the board certified chaplain to the board endorsed clinical chaplain. Similar requirement in the 4 units of CPE. However, it does not have to be USDE accredited. So if you've had your ACPE units after October 24, that would count currently. If you have CPSP, if you have, I'm trying to think some of the others that are legitimate CPE providers but aren't accredited. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but this would fall into this category if they're COMIS network members. And so there's a bunch of those as well. So you can Google COMIS network and you can find their site and see the list. MDiv or suitable degree. This one, there's a little bit of a more wiggle room. So the doctor of theology, the church leadership, etc., could qualify. And even if it's from not necessarily an accredited body, but maybe a church-based university that cannot get USDE accreditation, they would fall into this. And then the same test, but there's not the limit of 3 times in a month on the board endorsed clinical chaplain. So moving right along, same sample question. We're not going to stay on that. 2 verbatim case studies, exactly the same as the board certified chaplain. Standard format. You can Google, what's standard verbatim case study for a chaplain. There are templates. Theology of chaplaincy paper. When we read your theology of chaplaincy, we're looking for what drives you and your ministry. How does God's word inform your work in chaplaincy? Needs to be at least 2 pages long, 1.5 space size, 10 font, preferably 3 pages. I don't want 10 pages. The board has enough to go through as far as documentation without having to read 10 pages. But at the same time, if you write a page, it's not going to be enough. And same way with your biography. We want to know who you are, what past events have formed who you are, where did you come from? It's hard for you to walk through dark times with people if you don't articulate that you've had dark times yourself. And so we're looking for that in your biography. And how were you called to this ministry? But what were the events that precipitated your calling as a chaplain? And then same ordination and endorsement. The difference is you can be a member of an independent church that is not on the list of the VA. So that's a little different. So your independent denominations who don't have an endorser in their main headquarters, those types of things, then you can use that for your endorsement and your ordination. Website ordinations do not count. You cannot go to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship and fill out an online form and pay $25 and be ordained and qualify for our chaplain certifications, no matter what they are. Needs to be an actual church standing behind you in your ordination and endorsement. And then let's talk about the interview. So you have to pass the interview. The interview is not like a job interview. You learn things about yourself if you've done CPE that you wouldn't share in a job interview. So we do record them, but we don't share them anywhere. What we do is we require you to do a verbatim case study on the role play that you will do in the interview. And so we'll talk about that here a little bit more in just a minute. It's conducted via Microsoft Teams, usually Monday evenings. In rare instances, when we have a whole bunch in the queue for interview, we'll schedule a Saturday because I don't want people to have to wait longer than 8 weeks once they've submitted all their documentation to be interviewed. That to me is too long. So usually it's 4 weeks or less. So we try to move people to their interview quickly. You're going to engage in a real-life role play to test how you think in the moment and how you follow the information presented and how you probe the emotions and the relationships and the experiences. It is based on a real-life occurrence that one of us on the board have experienced. You're going to be asked some specific questions regarding your submitted documentation during the interview. And the interview is recorded because we're going to want you to do that verbatim case study on your role play. And it's a lot easier to recreate a verbatim based on the actual video rather than trying to remember it all from memory. So, and usually it takes about a week to receive that video so that you can begin the process of doing your verbatim case study. The board will confer after the interview to decide if there are any additional requirements for you, or will confer board certification. Additional requirements. So if, for example, I don't want to give it away, but silence is one of the main tools that we have as a chaplain. If you aren't able to effectively use silence during your role play, you may end up with a didactic on the importance of using silence. And so the didactic is a video that you will do, usually between 5 minutes and 20 minutes long, that you'll watch. And then you'll be required to do a paper, 2 to 3 pages, based on what you learned from the video. We have like 8 or 10 of these didactics that cover various points throughout the whole interview. And so when you receive the link to your role play so that you can do your verbatim, we'll also tell you if there are any of these didactics that we want you to do. And so then as soon as you turn those around, you do the didactics, you write the papers, you do the verbatim case study, you send it back to us. We're able to act pretty quick. There's not a requirement for you on how quickly you turn it around. So, I've had people that have taken 6 months to turn it around. I've had other people that do it that night. So it really just depends on how quickly you're able to get the things turned in to us. But everybody must do the verbatim case study on their role play because there's power in seeing you work. And we want you to see what we see in the interaction. So when will your interview be scheduled? We want you to do it within 4 weeks. Of the time that you've got everything submitted, we want you to do it within 4 weeks. Now, we don't schedule you until everything is submitted, and we want everything submitted at once. So occasionally there are times, for example, when somebody's waiting on their endorsement letter and they go ahead and submit everything else but the endorsement. We may go ahead and start with the process a little early, but the certification will not be conferred until the endorsement is received. When 8 people are in the queue to be interviewed, we'll go ahead and schedule a Saturday and knock 4 out because we don't want people to have to wait longer than 8 weeks for that interview. You have people that are waiting on you to be certified for certain doors to open up in your job, and so we want to make sure that you have that possibility. So 8 weeks typically is the longest. And then, of course, that also includes the time that you have to get stuff turned in after the fact, your verbatim case study and your didactics. And that's on you. But we want you to at least be interviewed within 8 weeks. So what happens after you earn your board certification? You'll be added to the ACCC website members section, which that's where you pay your dues. Dues are $100 per year, every year, January 1. If you don't pay your dues, and chaplains are notorious for not paying their dues, by January 31, they are considered expired. And if your employer calls us to verify your status, we have no other recourse but then to tell your employer, I'm sorry, this chaplain's certification is expired, and you know what that can mean for you and your job. So we encourage you to make sure you log in and pay your dues January 1. You'll receive an invoice December 1. And so that's the reminder that you need to go in and do it, and certainly pay it by January 31. If you don't, by January 31, you're going to have a $35 late fee assessed as well. So if it is suspended for non-payment, we reserve the right to make you reapply for board certification. if you expire, say it's 2025 and you expire in 2025, we're not going to make you reapply for board certification. But I had somebody that just a couple months ago, they had actually expired in 2018. So it's 7 years they've been expired. And they wanted to register for the conference. And guess what? You can't register as a member. And so they were inquiring. They said, I am a member. And I said, well, sir, you have not paid your dues since 2018. You are not a member. And in fact, at this point, you have to reapply for board certification because our requirements have changed since you were initially board certified. So just know if you expire, there is the possibility that you will have to reapply. And that means resubmitting all of that paperwork, which is a headache, believe me. If you don't remember your login on our website to be able to pay your dues, there is a link right at the very top of the page on how to pay your dues. So at the very, very top, click here for a document to download how to pay your dues. When you log in, if you can't, there is a forgot my password tool, and you can use that. The only time you really need to contact me is if you've changed email addresses and you didn't go online to change your email address in your profile. Then you may need to contact me with your new email address, and I'll have to update it for you. Otherwise, our website is designed to be self-service. And again, remember the amount of hours that I work here at the hospital, and I can't always break away and take a phone call to help somebody with their computer issue. So what happens when you earn board certification? We have a dual board certified opportunity through the Spiritual Care Association. This is certification. So if you become board certified with us, you can be dual board certified with the SCA through us. Don't contact SCA. It doesn't work that way. You must go through us. And so this is why it's important. Somebody says, well, you're a Christian chaplain. You can't provide care to everybody. You could say, no, wait a minute. I'm also board certified by the Spiritual Care Association, which is an ecumenical body. So it just gives you some extra ammunition when you need it. But dual board certification with us is not membership in SCA. Those are two separate things. You pay us for your dual board certification, and we keep track of that. And then every year we make one payment to the Spiritual Care Association for all of our members. That does not include membership in SCA. Now, they are very gracious in providing us a 50% discount code for any of our dual board certified members, to where if you've paid your certification fee, we can provide you that discount. And then you go on Spiritual Care Association's website and join as a member using the discount, and you get 50% off the annual membership. Okay. But just understand, I've had people get very irate with me when they find out their membership in SCA is non-existent, because they say, I paid you for it. No, you paid me for certification. You did not pay for membership in the Spiritual Care Association. Those are two separate things, right? Spiritual Care Association, if you call them and say, I'm dual board certified and I'd like XYZ, they're going to say, we don't have record of your dual board certification, because they don't. We are the ones where your dual board certification comes through. We pay a one lump sum fee every year for all of our members. So just know that that's how it works. So if you call them, what's going to happen is they're going to forward your information to me and say, hey, one of your members doesn't understand the process. So then I'm going to have to reach out to you and explain this again. So once you have passed your interview, it's all done. I send you the email that says congratulations. In that email, you're going to receive a welcome letter that your employers can use in your personnel file. And it's going to let you know the information about the ceremony where your certificate will be awarded. So we provide your certificate at our annual conference Every year we do these, and there's a ceremony that we do at the end of the conference, and everybody who's earned board certification or specialty certification during the year is honored during that conference. And so there are those that have to have a certificate right now. We post the digital copy online in your profile where you log in to pay your dues. You can find a certificate section, and you'll be able to download that there as soon as you get your welcome letter. But don't ask us to mail you a hard copy, because we do not do that until after the conference. Anybody who is not able to attend the conference, we work in the month of December to get those sent out, the hard copies. That reminds me, please make sure your address is always correct. If you move, please go log in to our website and make sure your new address is there. Every year I send out anywhere from 90 to 120 certificates every year. And every year I get between 6 and 10 back because of a wrong address. So please make sure your address is correct, because we don't get reimbursed for that money. When we pay shipping to ship the cardboard envelope with the 11 by 17 certificate in cardstock, it's a nice certificate. When we send that to you, we don't get reimbursed when it comes back to us. We have to pay it again to resend it to you. So please make sure your address stays correct. Continuing education requirements. The year that you're certified, there is no continuing education requirement. So say you get certified in November of this year. We're not going to turn around and make you get 50 hours between November and December. That doesn't even make sense. Nobody's going to do that. But the following year, the first full year that you're a board certified member, you're going to have a 50 CEU requirement. And so there's a CEU page on our website under members only that you can see the breakdown of what fits and what doesn't. How much you can claim for this thing and how much you can claim for that thing. All of it's spelled out there. And that's where you also submit your CEUs. So you log into the website, again, self-service, and you scroll down and there's a database that you put all of your CEU information into. And the reason why that's a good thing is because if somebody says, you know, I'm 7 hours short this year, I'd like to figure out what I can do to get some CEUs, they can go and browse the database and get some ideas of what some other people have done for CEUs. And that gives them an idea for how they can make up that 7 hours. So here's the other thing, though. If you attend our annual conference, which our annual conference only costs $250 for the weekend, you know, plus you've got your hotel that you got to pay, and travel. But the actual conference is $250 early bird. If you wait past October 1 to register, it's going to be $350. But you get all of your CEUs that are required for the year in one weekend by attending our conference. So that's a sweet deal there, and most people do that. All right, getting close to being done here. Specialties. We have 4 specialties currently. 2 are accepted by the VA for GS-12. Our special competency in grief is a 21-hour course that happens on a Friday through Sunday. We actually, at the time I'm recording this, just got done with it this weekend. That's why I'm a little hoarse. It's been a lot of talking this weekend. It's by chaplains for chaplains. This is a specialized grief training. And if you talk to anybody that has gone through it, they'll probably tell you that it's transformed their life. So it's 21 hours. And the way that it is scheduled is we don't put out a date and say, hey, y'all come. Once 10 people are registered for the next class, then a poll goes out of what possible dates to those 10 people. What dates would you like to attend the class? And they vote. And the one that the most people select is the date. So if you haven't registered, you're not going to be included in the class. So the way you get into the special competency in grief class is you register. Once you register, you will be part of the group that is polled and can give your input as to what weekend you want to take it. Now, if a weekend is selected that you can't do, then that's okay. We just move you to the next class that will register once it gets 10 people. May take a little bit longer, but it works for everybody that way. So the next one is a special competency in mental health. And that's accepted by the VA for GS-12. And rather than a course like the grief is, it's a validation of skills. So you got to submit a lot of documentation. You got to submit a lot of letters of recommendation from people on your interdisciplinary team that will corroborate how you work as a chaplain as part of the mental health team. And so from that, I then will interview you and we'll talk about mental health things to identify whether or not you have this special competency. Because an awful lot of chaplains work in chaplaincy, but they don't have that added skill of mental health chaplaincy. And so that's kind of a little different animal for some people. And it becomes very evident in the interview as well. So the next one, or next two, corporate chaplaincy and military chaplaincy, all the information and the requirements are on our website for that. Tony Duck, if you know him, he is the national endorser for IMF. He is the one that leads those interviews and all of that. So all of that is available on our website. So if you have any questions about this video or the process or anything like that, first visit the link, Start Here, All Questions Answered. I've tried to make that as clear as possible. Start Here, All Questions Answered, and it's under membership on the website. If you just scroll down, one of the questions I get probably 10 times a month is, can I join ACCC without being certified? You know what? You can, and that is specifically addressed on this page. And as we've gone through the years, as I've had reoccurring questions about a topic, I put it on there and put the answer. Again, because I'm trying to respect my employer here at the hospital where I work. I don't want constant calls coming in while I'm visiting patients here at the hospital. And then if it's not answered still after looking at that page, or especially if you have had an email address change and you can't log into the website, or if there's a question not answered on the page that you have, then go ahead and send me an email at richarddeford@certifiedchaplains.org. We have a web form on our website, and that also comes to me, but I don't want my email address put in the wide open so that every spam bot in the world can get a hold of it. I don't mind it being embedded in this video because they won't find it, but that's why we use that Google web form. Is just to keep my address private. But I don't mind if you go ahead and take it down and email me for legitimate chaplain concerns. So with that, I thank you for if you've watched this far. And again, hope you are blessed in your calling and your ministry, and we look forward to hearing from you.